Welcome to B2B Tech Mindset, where we explore how technology drives business success. Join us as we discuss the latest software solutions, trends, and strategies that can help you stay ahead of the curve. Develop a tech mindset and learn how to leverage technology for growth in your organization.
Hello and welcome to one more episode of the B2B Tech Mindset.
Yeah, hello, welcome back.
Welcome back. So the topic today is a topic that we have touched a little bit in every episode, I think, till now, but we're gonna go balls deep into it this time, which is artificial intelligence. So we're talking about AI today, the whole chapter.
Yeah, that's a topic close to my heart because I've been working in the field for a while now in different capacities. And yeah, I'm super pumped about what are we going to talk about this in this episode about it, and especially how it can impact B2B businesses, because there's been a lot of talk about, ChatGPT and what people is doing with these large language models and the possibilities and the dreams and artificial general intelligence and all the stuff. But concretely, it makes a lot of sense to discuss how businesses can use it and make the most out of it. And this is the perspective that we want to take on this conversation. At least this is where we want to get started, and then let's see where the conversation goes. I mean, it always goes to really funky places. So let's see. So what is your experience with AI so far? What did you? I know you've been busy using stuff. So tell me.
Yeah, basically, I'm there is two type of is like for my side projects or my personal investigation. So I'm gonna talk with about both. But before that, I have another a little better question. We can step back a little bit. Why now? So AI as a science, as a topic matter, have existed since decades now. But why we are seeing these improvements, this advance in the science right now?
Well, it's funny. Today I was watching an interview with, let me check his name so I get it right. And I don't butcher
the name.
I don't butcher the name because it would be Geoffrey Hinton. Geoffrey Hinton is he's in Toronto, and he's one of the main luminaries and the tutor of many of the people who's actually working in the field of artificial intelligence, particularly in the whole story of neural networks. So he was one of the people who initially was working in the whole backpropagation algorithm that is the fundamental is at the base of many of these algorithms that we're seeing. And many of the people who came out of his line of thought or school, or where his PhD students are actually many of the people who are leading the field right now. They are working at places like Google and OpenAI and all the different places, and they are the ones who are moving. I mean, among others, but many of them are moving forward the whole AI story. And he was telling in this interview that when he first proposed these models in the 80s, everyone was very skeptic about the ability of these models to really become something, because the idea that you can find the right weights or the right equations, so to speak, for intelligence or to recognize patterns from data was really something that people thought it was really fetch off. And it's only because the amount of computing power and data available has increased dramatically in the last years is that now we've seen that it's possible to do what he thought that in the 80s was almost impossible because of this limitation of computing power and data available. So that might be that's the general idea why now we see this level of innovation. And of course, everyone knows that the amount of data that there is online is increasing exponentially, that we create exabytes and exabytes of data every year. And so this is more or less why we see, but the hype that we are observing now, because what we are seeing now is a real hype, is due especially because of ChatGPT. ChatGPT makes AI something that you can really touch with your fingertips. So you write in the chat and then you have something that answers you in your language. And that is really a breakthrough, because we had neural networks in a bunch of places. We had that for speech recognition in your phone, for the speech to text. We had object recognition. We had features in the phones that you can actually take pictures and get the different objects. So essentially the models that are running behind this, the neural networks, were the same, but there was not this huge hype and people talking about that. But because language is something so close to us, when we see a machine that talk to us as a human being, then people freak out. And it's like, oh wow, now AI is real. That, I think that's the thing that makes the difference with what we had before. Because before it was just there, it was pervasive, it was all over the place. But now, because it touches language, which is so close to us, the awareness of the public has increased exponentially. But there's a bunch of systems that use machine learning AI already deployed. So
I think there were like very particular applications that we're using like day to day, like navigation on GPS on your auto navigator, whatever, recommendations and stuff like that. So we're using actually day to day. But the thing with ChatGPT which is new, is like it's open. When you can ask anything, when you get an answer. It's not only like you get like, oh, you may will like this product, or you may want to listen to this song, or you may want to take this street, right? That it's not that particular. It's like you can ask like whatever, and then you get a seemingly coherent answer from what you get, which we're gonna talk about also about the hallucinations that these large language model have as well. But for most of the time, you get a coherent answer. So to say that I'm using less and less Google, and I think that is a nice segue to what does it mean for the big internet landscape now that these models are out, without mentioning too much names and whatever. So my take is like more and more people are going to start using let's first say ChatGPT, because there's no other big product out there that you can use right now, as far as I know. Less people are going to use a search engine like Google.
I think that definitely, especially for the marketing industry, is going to be something that probably we will see a change in how it's going to operate. I mean, there are solutions out there that were already using these language generation models, or these generative models, to create content to optimize for SEO campaigns. And there were companies that were already working on that, and they had products and people were using this kind of text. But I think, I mean, from the development that we are seeing in the last few months, seems to me that the dynamic of SEO is going to really change over time, because now we are going to be more and more focused on what these bots are going to spit back at you. And now we have this development of this marketplace in ChatGPT, GPT-4, so the ChatGPT version that uses ChatGPT-4, that uses GPT-4, and this marketplace of companies or services that are plugging in, or they are inserting themselves in the answers of the bot. I think probably that will be the new economy. So it will be the new ecosystem where you will have services that the bot is going to reach to, and then this is how you're going to integrate or you're going to discover new things. Now, it's a new way of discovering. I think we are too early to really say how this is going to work. It's only possible to speculate, but definitely I can foresee that at least the way that businesses are being discovered is going to change dramatically if people really desire to focus their discovery activities, finding information, finding services, if they begin to use these bots to do these activities, because this is fundamentally different from getting a search engine result page. It's fundamentally different from that, because there you had all these links ranked, and you had the possibility to also add ads inside of that. Now we have a different game, and obviously if you are a business and you want to gain visibility, now you have to rethink how you're going to do that. If people over time is not using this classical search engine result page mechanism, but talking to the agent, you will have to adjust your strategy. You either might have an add-on to the bot, you will have to generate content that the bot is going to use. I don't really know. I don't really know how the future is going to look like, but it's going to be exciting, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And a lot of opportunity for a lot of people. I think that's the best part. When there is a change, I think it's awesome, because it opens a door for new people to come into the game. So you want to say something?
Yeah. The way that I see it, so I agree 100% with what you're saying. The way that I see it is like, we're gonna have in the near future, we're gonna ask the AI, or the AI is gonna go away and fetch that information from us. From where did the AI fetch that information? That will be the companies or services or whatever that they are flexible enough to adapt and put their information and their services available for the AI. I don't know if it will be OpenAI or will be something else, or a new company that comes along and either launch. I don't know. It doesn't look like at this time, so right now, but I see that happening. Like, we talking with the AI going and fetching information for us, because it's easier. Like, you can ask ChatGPT right now, give me 10 places to visit in Berlin, and they will give you 10 places that you can visit in Berlin without like having to go to Lonely Planet website or whatever thing. You get your information exactly how you want it right away. So that I see that happening. And again, as you say, a lot of opportunity for people to actually adapt and jump in this new format. Let's call it a format to present information to you.
I think one challenge that I see, the example that you just mentioned, say the trip advisor, right? That is the place that you usually go to when you want to find new places to visit in a city. Now people would delegate to, say, or imagine that now people begin to delegate to an agent to discover what places they want to visit in a city. So I don't know, I'm going to Paris, and what is there to see there. Now, the challenge is what happens over time if people stop using these websites and they stop adding new reviews and adding new information. Still, we need a way to keep the information of the bot fresh, and that I think it's necessary to have a loop in which people go discover and then they inject back into the system, and then the agents or the bots get updated information. So it's not, I can hardly believe that we will 100% only use, or, I mean, that's a problem. That's definitely an interesting challenge to solve. How do we keep that information updated? That's what I wanted to say, because we run slowly in the risky situation that if we are not using the travel portal, the portal for travels anymore, where do we get that information? Because, or perhaps these agents come back to us and ask us, how was the experience? How are you feeling? That might be perhaps something that might come in the future. Them actively establishing a dialogue to learn about the world. Because if you bought a product or a service and then you experience it, how does the bot is going to know how the new phone that is going to be released next year is going to perform? I mean, it doesn't have any information about it, right? And if everyone is moving to those agents, well, you will need to have this conversation. So I can foresee a sort of feedback mechanism in which the bot grabs information from human beings and incorporates that into their knowledge base, and then they feed back to people the new updated content. I mean, again, there's a bunch of challenges in this thing. I think because we are only now, how many months? 5 months in. It was released in November. There's a lot of stuff that has happened, but I think this is just the beginning. And still in 5 months, information is more or less relevant. You know, but when we began to see information getting old and not really up to date, same thing happens with libraries and people not using, say, Stack Overflow too much. Well, if the system, learns from Stack Overflow, but no one is going to Stack Overflow, we will need to establish.
Stack Overflow? Yeah.
Exactly. We need to establish a mechanism that knowledge base stays up to date. If I now write a new open source library, and everyone now is asking the question to an agent, well, how do I keep that up to date? I think that's one of the interesting challenges. I mean, perhaps there's already people working on that. I don't really know what the answer is, but in general, in all the domains that these bots take information from, that would really make sense to solve. And I think open a lot of opportunities to create this dual channel communication, to bot giving you input and you give it input to the bot, or the bot actively asking you, how was the experience? Did you like it? Why did you like it? What did you experience there? All these kind of things.
In that regard, working in UX, we do have these surveys that we push to our users from time to time. How was the experience? So one thing I can tell from experience is that almost nobody answered that. So they have to come, or we have to come with a very sophisticated way to getting that information from you. And that will be like very sneaky, like Google does, like Google Maps,
Google Maps
when you see a place and they say, oh, right now it's very full.
Yeah.
So they basically, all the people that are around open Google Maps and they calculate that, and they save all the data, and they can give you the chart when the place is full or not. So it's they don't ask you anything, but from your data they kind of inferred a lot of information. So we're going to see a lot more of that coming up in the future. I'm pretty sure you're centrally right that we need a retrofitting mechanism, because all the old business model that you get eyeballs on your website and you display advertisement for them, that's going to get away, because the window of information gets narrower. Like right now is a paragraph of text. It's the only thing that you can give it to the user. So right now, ChatGPT doesn't give you images. It can give you tables sometimes, depends on the information. But it doesn't give you images, etc. So the window of information from your service through the AI agent to the user is getting very narrow right now. So before you have the whole browser for yourself, maybe if you click from the result page, you go to the website, you have, let's say, their attention for the user for the first 30 seconds completely. But right now you have a very narrow, you have like one paragraph of text to actually communicate, which is very small in terms of information densities. So, and again, the business model are going to change because you don't have the eyeballs on your website, you have the eyeballs on your information. So the thing that makes you money have to be passed through that narrow window, or the company controlling the agent pays you for that information at some point. Like, let's say in the hypothetical case, like OpenAI pays like TripAdvisor for their information. And then TripAdvisor doesn't rely more in users adding stuff to their website, but hiring people that go in the ground and keep that information up to date. For instance, that can be one development that can happen in different type of businesses. But I'm pretty sure we're gonna definitely see new business models arising from this big change.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of things that can happen there. I mean, the more I think about it, the more I think I believe that you might see probably some models that are reminiscent, for instance, of these like buttons that we had from Facebook in the past that were all over the place. Perhaps we end up in a place that we have these agents, or one or a few companies that offer these agents embedded in a bunch of websites, and that's the way they capture and they give information back, because instead of simply giving you information, they can also, because they have the awareness of, if you bought a product, if you order, say, a pizza, then they come a couple of minutes afterwards and tell you, hey, I know you ordered a pizza. How was the pizza? How do you like it? So they might go back to you. But for that, I think the agent has to be contextualized in what happened during the span of the experience that you were using that app, and perhaps also afterwards. And at the same time, it needs to have the awareness, and it needs to understand your history or your journey. So these systems are going to be really aware of customer journey, what people is doing, how all these funnels work. And a system that does that is super powerful for marketing. Now the question is, how is this going to be organized for the future? Is this going to be one company who's going to own all this information? It's really fascinating, all that can happen here, how people is going to embed. Now we also have a wealth of open source models that are emerging. And the question is, how hard it's going to be over time to have this unique ability to have one of these agents? How hard it's going to be to differentiate over time? So it's a wealth of fascinating questions. And I think many businesses, should begin to at least brainstorm and think about how this can impact the daily activities, how they work. And again, it's not only about, I can write faster a Word document, or it can help me to write better articles or emails. Those are things that are extremely important, but that's just the tip of the iceberg. If you really began to think about the implications in terms of discovery, understanding the customer journey. These bots, if imagine that, if now you have recommendation engines that sometimes they are scary, because how precise they are timing.
TikTok.
Yeah, timing your needs. It's like, oh, I think you might need this book, or I think you might need this thing to work out, or you might need, and those algorithms are not extremely sophisticated. We're talking here of classic machine learning, support vector machines, this kind of thing, very simple stuff. Now, imagine if you have an agent that has a history of your sessions and conversations. This agent really understands your needs, what you need, what your mood is, what the things that you are interested in, and then having that information and using that information to really discover new products and services and suggest you things that you might need is super powerful. And I think that's much more efficient than just looking at how you scroll a page, where your mouse is, and what is the series of web pages that you look in my website. And from there, trying to find what is the probability that you might like this product. So that's really fetch off and still works pretty well. So imagine now that you have these conversations, what you can do. You know, it's a little bit like when we were having in the past these conversations about, which I think is also something that probably will add to this mix, VR. So imagine that now you have VR and you are really looking at your face, the facial expressions, plus you have an agent you're having these conversations with. You really understand where the customer is. You really understand where the user is. You can really cater an experience that is going to really fulfill the needs that this person has in this particular moment. So
yeah,
super exciting. And I'm really looking forward to see how people is going to use this.
To round your idea is basically the way when a friend of yours that knows you very well give you a suggestion or a gift, like it's your birthday, they give you a gift that they know exactly that you're going to like.
Yeah.
Because you have been by years having conversations with this friend of yours. So for me, it's like kind of the same thing. You're having conversation with this AI agent, or you're asking stuff, and there is saving all the time what you asking and whatever. So they know you, and they know what you think, and they know what do you are interested in. When it's not only like a series of empty queries like in Google, it's definitely a conversation with a context, on one question after the other, on one thought after the other. So it's a more deep understanding of the user that it is right now.
Yeah, definitely. And again, the question is how to use that, you know, and how, what level of access people is going to have if you add this. I mean, integrating right now, as of today, if you use, say, the OpenAI service, the API that they offer, if you use the bare bones API and you connect that, we were discussing before, if you connect that, say, for instance, to a one Elasticsearch, so you have a classification of documents, and then you pass that back and forth, and then you tell the bot just to look at your knowledge base for something. And this is what you do for your business. If you do that already, you can really capture, if you already have an audience, you can capture their interest, and that information is really important, really powerful to have that. So this is something that can be done today. It's not something that is far in the future. I think the interesting thing is, because I guess also many concerns regarding privacy are going to arise, if you have a sort of meta agent that is following you around across the whole internet and all your physical experience, you know, that knows that you are in this place, or you ask when you are in this place, oh, how should I behave here? Or say you are in a bar, or you are in a I mean, I can picture really interesting scenarios, because imagine that now you are in a networking environment. You are in a business conference, and imagine that you might have an agent in your phone, and then you find certain person that you are interested in, and then you ask the agent, how should I best approach this person? And obviously, if you, and you can do this today. If you open the LinkedIn page, and then you ask the agent, looking at this LinkedIn page, please tell me how to better approach this person. So imagine that you would do that in real time. And then the bot will ask you afterwards, well, how the conversation went. And then you say, that was awesome. You know, so it opens a new frontier of ways that you can interact with people, you know? So it's
Or
really,
not interact with people, because you can just, for instance, go to a restaurant, and based on all the reviews that they are already online, you can say, okay, what is the most popular dish here? And then you just order that. You don't even have to ask the waiter.
yeah,
So
especially because the system knows, oh, I know what you've been eating, so I know what you like. And
yeah, without thinking account in that. Yeah, I was thinking only on the reviews that
yes,
are present right now.
yeah, I know what you've been eating, I know what you've been liking lately, and I know that you are in this diet, and perhaps you should take care. But let me pick something for you that is carb free and blah blah blah. I mean, you can, and again, these applications are not like 1,000 years away.
No,
These applications are
1, 2,
a
3,
month.
4 years away. Yeah.
No, I think it's a month. I mean, these scenarios. I mean, for real, these are scenarios of a restaurant in an app and stuff like that. This is, I mean,
Yeah, it's not that far away.
I mean, like technically, it's not that far away. I think that the challenge is that the privacy issues. It's the issues about people being okay, or what is going to be the perception of having an agent that you are sharing all these conversations with.
Yeah.
Like if you have a social media account, do you want a companion, a digital companion that is looking at all your conversations? Some people might want to have that. Some people might want to have a companion for my social media, whatever social media you're using, that gives you advice and tells you this is how you have to react to this comment, and this is how you shouldn't react to this comment, and ignore this, and don't look at social media now because you're using too much. Those are all applications. And again, in the case of business, if you're thinking about how to use this application in business, the same thing. If the application knows, if the system knows how long the sales cycle takes in experience, in average, and it knows how many touch points you need with a certain client, and then how to prepare your marketing material and all these things. I mean, possibilities are endless when you begin to really think about it. Yeah. So the question is, how, if you are a B2B business, how can you use this thing? And obviously, I think to get started, to brainstorm, is you have essentially two sides of the whole business. You have how you increase the internal productivity, and how you improve the discovery process, how people can find you, and how you can find people, and how you can optimize to be discovered. I think these three aspects, because right now I see a lot of conversation about improving productivity. Many people is really surprised that these systems can do many of these white collar tasks, writing text, creating presentations, this sort of activities. But where I really think many organizations can benefit is improving how they get discovered, and these things that we talked before. How you optimize for that, how you make that people find you better, how you can find the optimal cost, or the ideal customer for your product. These things. And then there are other thing that I think is very interesting. Another aspect that I think is very interesting, which is the whole standard operating procedures. These systems, if imagine that you could combine this with something like robotic process automation. That you can record what you're doing. Say you are working in Photoshop, and you have already a process in Photoshop that you're clicking here and there and over there, and that API process recognizes the context, because also understand what image you have there, and then you give instructions. So I think these are, perhaps some of these scenarios are really far-fetched, but perhaps there are other scenarios that are not that far-fetched, that are already much closer to what we think, and that we can build mashups with these things.
Yeah, definitely we're getting there. So today I was reading an article, or someone open source a new library that you can basically give commands to Blender in 3D and say like, add me one sphere 10 centimeters from the origin with this radius. When it will figure it out, it will write the Python script and will put you that in the scene. So we are definitely getting there. On Adobe recently released this Firefly, so the AI offering from Adobe. It's called Firefly. But definitely what they want to do is like streamline all this process. Like you get an image and say like, oh, change the sky to orange. Or you get a daylight image and say, okay, put it in the night. Or you get a spring image and say, okay, put it now winter, which is actually one of the examples that they do on video. So it's like you got a piece of footage and say, okay, put it in winter now. So they make it everything frozen with snow falling or whatever. So all these manual aspects of the creative work that is actually very costly, because basically you have to do it like pixel by pixel, basically per hand, like drawing or whatever. You can do it now automatically. Like the system is capable of understanding your intention on actually executing the actions to get you to your desired result, which is right now, let's say the hypothetical case that you are a game designer, right? So a level designer, game designer in one AAA game company. To design a level, you need a bunch of technical designers that will do the 3D, will do actually all the objects in the scene and placement and lighting and stuff. All that can be replaced with an AI in the next couple of months. That you can say like, oh, give me a tree here, put me a path that go like 300 meters, put me a fence there, put me a door here, like splash more dirt into this wall. So basically you give commands the same way that you talk with your technical designers, like from the game designer perspective. You say, okay, I want this to look like this, and it's the same way that you talk with the AI. Like basically you're gonna make those people a lot more productive, and hopefully liberate those that doing the manual labor to do other stuff that they are more productive as well. But that is another discussion that we can have later. But basically, when we are going to go with the creative tools, is like you probably don't need to know the technique behind it or how to use it, but you have to know what you want in the end. So basically, that is where we are going to.
I think that's interesting. That's an area that many people talk about, how you can automate many of these existing roles and accelerate them. I like to think a lot about, because I'm also interested in the whole story of process automation and process mining, understanding the structure of processes and how you can improve them. And I was thinking in my previous life, when I was working in telecommunications, you have all these processes for, say, customer support, or if you go to a brick and mortar shop, there is all these processes that take place. You get an offer, the customer might either reject or accept the offer, and then there's all these steps in this process until they make you a new customer or you get a new offer. And then there is all these trees with all the different possibilities that you make the customer move through all that path. And I was thinking, and essentially that's the basis of many businesses. So at the core, many organizations are made of people and processes that you have in place, and also you have obviously tools or instruments that help you to accomplish a task. But essentially, you need these four ingredients: you need the people, you need the processes, you need the tools or the resources to make things happen. And an important component of this thing is having the processes. And I'm thinking, how can this be applied to optimize those processes? If you, for instance, understand is if you have a customer support agent, because many companies are thinking that the first thing that crossed their mind when they see a bot system is, okay, I will automate customer support. That's a no-brainer. And then, but in customer support, you might have very different actions. Like someone want to get a discount and they have a voucher, and you go through different weird branches of a tree where you are doing that. And the question is, how could this sort of system, understanding the dialogue that is having with a customer, move the customer through the different branches of the tree in an efficient manner? Or if you have an internal process and the system is asking you, it's asking you for how you call that, approval process. So you have an approval process, and then it's asking someone, okay, are you approving this request from this department? And then how does this system can improve the whole experience? Because, for instance, in the case of an approval process, you might need more information. Right now, when you have an approval tree, you would just close the process and you would reject the petition, but then you will write, well, I'm rejecting this because I need more and more information about that, about this and that. But perhaps the agent tells you, oh no, you don't need to reject that because I can grab you that information right now. You don't need to consult that person. So I think this is where it begins to get really interesting, is when you begin to merge these agents together with these processes, and you begin to automate those in a way that is not only for internal functions, but also for external functions. You have both together. It begins to get really interesting. So there is I think what is really exciting is when one begins to think about the possible scenarios, there's a ton of ideas that come out. This is not one or two. It's just a wealth of ideas.
It's definitely a ton of ideas. So when you're talking about the de facto use case that everybody will have in mind, like the AI support agent. Yes, the AI will ingest your knowledge base, will know everything about your business and processes and whatever, facing the customer. It will be able to answer questions about your services or your company or whatever. But how does the agent will execute some actions? Like the last time I talked with my phone company was to cancel something. So I can tell the AI, yeah, I want to cancel this. The AI can see if I am in between the parameters I can cancel or not. But how the AI actually do cancel that, I don't know how those systems are going to interface. Like how the AI will realize that they need to make an action on how they actually communicate with the system where the action needs to be done. So basically what we need is an intermediate layer that enables the AI agent to actually perform action, which is, again, a new business model that some company may pick up and actually do.
Well, I think that what you're saying, what expands on is on the idea of what is a robot. Today, I think we think of a robot as a machine that sits in a factory floor and has an arm and picks something and solves something. But if now we have something that interact with human beings, is able to capture information from different sensors. The sensors might be, how do you interact with the web page? What do you look at? Where are you standing now? If you have a system that is able to look at all these things, gathers information from you, gives you information, then essentially what you have is a new kind of robot that is able to do work in a different manner. Perhaps it doesn't have a physical existence as the one that is in the factory floor has.
Factory, yeah.
But it's essentially a robot. It's a machine. Essentially, you have a business that is a machine, and then you have this brain doing stuff for you. Now, how much this thing can automate itself? Good question. We don't know. But now we have, like, if you think, for instance, about something as simple as a flow. If you use, like one of the Microsoft products that I really like a lot, like Power Automate. In the back end, you have a JSON file.
Yeah, so describe the process.
Yeah, the process is a JSON file. So it's kind of like a logic app, and then it's a JSON file that describes that.
Yeah.
Right now you have Codex, this model that generate text from OpenAI. So we have GPT, and one of the flavors is Codex. Well, and people use it in Copilot. Well, why don't you just tell the thing, generate for me a new process for this function? Customer is asking me this to do this. Well, I can just generate a new process for that function and then execute the process as I would, because, well, and then obviously you have to check the permissions, what permissions that this agent has. So it might have a service principal that might be able to execute this and that and check this and that. But, slowly, you begin to see a situation where this thing can write even the code that it needs to execute for certain functions. So
yeah,
it gets really interesting.
But that means that they need also awareness of the environment, of the situation of the company, on what is happening right now.
Well, I think it's like a normal robot, or it's like when you are having, it's like the way all machine learning algorithms work. You have you have a function that you have to optimize, and then at the end of the day, what these systems, you have a cost function, and then you want to optimize, you find a maximum or a minimum from that cost function, and essentially, if your goal, say, is, if I am, say you have an agent, and then you say the agent, well, your goal is to increase the customer lifetime value for every customer you have a conversation with. That's your goal. That's your optimization objective. That's what you have to do, and for that, you can offer that client everything that is in the realm of the possible and what is allowed for that given customer. So that tool can look at CRM and look at all these things, and looking at that, it can try to maximize that variable. So it's a very simple variable. You have CLV, customer lifetime value, and you want to optimize that. I think if business begin to think in this direction, there's a lot of innovation that can be done with these tools. How far away are we from doing this kind of thing? I'm not really sure. I don't know. I think it's not enough to just have a conversational agent, but perhaps it's not that far away. Perhaps for really simple scenarios, it's not that far away.
Yes, and it's also interesting to think about that you first need to have your company information digestible by these AIs. So basically, you have to have it in a way that you can actually feed the AI your information. Right now is textual information. Like, you can feed it, like, I don't know, I have not done the experiment, but I don't know if I copy and paste one CSV file to ChatGPT, if it's able to do something with it. I don't know. I have not tested that. It's actually my next hobby. I will be doing that next. Copying like one CSV file with a bunch of probably a blockchain transaction, and see if they can make sense of that. That will be interesting.
Yeah, well, I think those are the kind of cases, especially everything that is related to math, are the cases that are not working that well. But imagine imagine, or I don't really know, but I that's what I've heard. I think there are many very simple mathematical problems that the system struggles with. But I'm thinking about scenarios. So imagine again, let's go back to the case of optimizing CLV. So imagine that the agent contacts you, but the agent contacts you and tells you, "Hey, how you been doing? It's been a while that we haven't been in touch. And by the way, I found this video in social media X. I thought that I thought that you might find this funny. It will talk to you as a human being, and then you say, "Oh yeah, that's kind of cool." And then I don't know, someone is drinking Coke or whatever drink in the video, and then it said, the agent might ask you, "Oh, you know what? By the way, do you want to order one?" Those are.
Oh, that's very that's very in your face. That's the example. But I know what you say. I know what you say.
But you know what I'm trying to say. These things are going to fundamentally work different from what we know right now.
Well,
or at
following
least,
this line of path, what will be scary is, which actually happen right now, if you are in social media, when you get approached by this profile, or right now you don't know if what is behind the profile. That can be a troll farm in one third world country or whatever. So basically, what it will in the near future, and that I'm pretty sure will happen, you're gonna start seeing this social media accounts like doing stuff and interacting with you in a more, it will be pretty hard to discern who's human and who's not from now on.
And think about many of the things. I mean, your consuming behavior in general behavior. If you think about why people do things, say for instance, many of the big decisions, financial decisions that people make, usually it's because someone in their network kick off the idea, because you trust this person, and this person, you are vulnerable to them, and so you open to their suggestions. So the best seller is your friend. That's why many sellers want to be your friend. Now imagine that you have a system that has befriended you.
Yes.
Then it can basically not only sell you things in terms of a financial transaction, but can sell you ideas, things that you should do. Leadership might look completely different. How do you make people actually do certain things, in certain organizations? How do you accomplish that? Well, and then many, that's why I think the challenging part in all this dreaming of AI is the ethical part. It's
the ethical part, yeah.
Yeah, it's the ethical part, is to decide what are we okay with, what are we not okay with, how do we use personal information, to what end. And those are the lines that I think when people is building businesses, people have to think about it, because the possibilities are, I think, endless in terms of what is possible. But again, is the ethical aspect the one that is going to decide where do we want to go. And obviously there will be good and bad actors in this story. I mean, the more these models get democratized, the higher the chance that you will also have bad actors using them for all kinds of things. And I think what is interesting is many people is very concerned, for instance, with the deep fakes. But I think when people begin to understand that you cannot rely on, say, video content anymore, because you are not certain about the origin, the source of the content. And yes, there are ideas like digital watermarking and all these things that can make sure, okay, this really comes from the source that says that actually create the content. But even if you have that, I think in general, what might happen is that people will begin to be more skeptical about the content they consume in general. However, if you have an agent that is your best friend, is your digital best friend, you basically are going to trust almost anything this thing is going to tell you.
Yes.
I mean, we already had the case of, how was the name of this app? This is not exactly a dating app, but is this Replica or something?
Replica.
Yeah, Replica. And then they changed something and people were complaining. And it was
people
not
was up in arms in the forum, like, you took away my best friend, whatever.
And people knew it was an AI.
Yes, people knew it was an AI.
And people knew it was an AI.
And it was not a particular good one for what I remember.
Exactly. So. And it's not particularly good. So
yeah,
we already were there. So I think this is where it begins to get really interesting, is that people is going to begin to trust these things. And these things are not only going to try to trigger you with some sort of content that might trigger you in general. No. These things know you. So that's why the ethical component, the power of the recommendation, the new generation of recommendation engines that will arise from this is where things begin to get really interesting. Because again, classic recommendation engines, they use things like collaborative filtering. They look at your previous behavior, people who have behaviors similar to yours, and then they sort of like fill the blank for you.
Yeah.
But this is not what these things are doing. These things, essentially, they are calculating the probability distribution of wishes that you have in your head. and then they're optimizing for those, for your probability distribution of wishes. And that's what they are doing. And that's something that we are not even aware of. If I look at myself in the mirror and I tell to myself, do I really know what I want? And the honest answer, I think for 99% of people in this planet is, no, I don't know what I want. But these things actually will have a sort of model of you. So
yeah,
interesting.
Another interesting aspect is a little bit more philosophical of the AI stuff that we were talking the other day. Is like, the only way you have to debug these models, like to see if there is a problem, is actually asking certain questions. So we're going to move closer to psychology than to programming. So that's a very interesting aspect of the, if we are interacting with this model, that is easier for to debugging like by psychology than through programming though.
Yeah, that's also very true. And and then it's going to put human interactions in the in the center stage, that's another topic. That's like the what are the future, if now AI does everything for us, what do we do next? And I think
what do we do next? Like,
what do we do next? And I think psychology is one of them, because psychology is going to be a fun one, because then I think we will need more than ever someone to talk to. And I don't think I only want to talk to a prompt. So
I'm definitely sure I don't want to talk to a prompt all the time. And also, I don't know how the entertainment industry is gonna develop, because with all those AI tools that's gonna be happening in the next future, the next month, probably by the end of the year, the bar to make it an entertainment pro, like let's say a AAA game, will be lower. So there will be different or more experiences going that way. So I can see that happening. Like the bar to making a AAA game will get lower than it is right now, because you're able to automate a lot of stuff with AI. So probably we are moving in this kind of a metaverse thing when you are with your VR in a virtual world that somebody designed, with a bunch of people around you. Some of them are AIs, some of them are not. But that is something that we can discuss in a future.
Yeah,
in the metaverse chapter of the
Yeah,
episode.
that's actually that's a good chapter that we can talk about, and that actually is a probably a good topic to also bring this conversation to an end.
Yes,
Because I think there's a lot. I mean, the future looks bright if for those of you out there who want to innovate and want to try new things. I believe there is the choice between being a little bit apprehensive or scared, if you will, about what might happen, but you can also ride the wave
yes,
and use the benefits. I think there's a lot of opportunities. I think we talk a little bit, we just brainstorm a little bit, and we throw a couple of wild ideas out
yeah,
there, but I think the possibilities that this thing can create are just huge, and the emergence and the rise of new business models is just around the corner, and not only in terms of technologies, but also in terms of new use cases, because behaviors
yeah,
are going to change, and once that you have new behaviors, you have new use cases, and then you will have the chance to innovate and do new things. So yeah, between the choice of being scared and being courageous and try new things, I think I go for the last one.
yeah. There's definitely a platform shift. Like, think of it like before the iPhone, after the iPhone. It's now before AI, after AI. So it's the same thing. On the iPhone created a lot of opportunity for a lot of people. Um, this one, AI is big. It's a lot bigger, in my opinion. So if people are actually brave enough to ride the wave, which is scary, it's high, it's stormy out there, and it's dark, unknown. So, but it's a lot of possibilities out there.
Yeah, definitely. There's a lot of I think there is a lot of chances, and there is a lot of money, yeah, money to be made. There's a lot of money to be made
A lot
out
of
there with it.
fish in the sea. Let's call it like that.
There's a lot of fish in the sea.
Yes.
Okay, I think with this we can wrap this up, and then we see you in the next week. And again, if you like this, then subscribe, give us a like, give us a thumb up, and you can also again find us in Spotify and in Apple Podcast and in YouTube as well. So
Yeah.
see you
See you
next
next
week.
week, and recommend us to your friends. If you have a friend that may also like this podcast, or just like this podcast, just send the link around, and we'll thank you forever. So I assure you that.
Exactly. So
Okay, see
see you
you
then.
next week. Bye bye.